It's Wednesday, April 1st, fifth week of Lent. The first reading is from the book of Daniel. King Nebuchadnezzar said, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you will not serve my God or worship the golden statue that I set up? Be ready now to fall down and worship the statue I had made. Whenever you hear the sound of the trumpet, flute, lyre, harp, psaltery, bagpipe, and all the other musical instruments. Otherwise, you shall be instantly cast into the white-hot furnace. And who is God who can deliver you out of my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered King Nebuchadnezzar, "There is no need for us to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If our God, whom we serve, can save us from the white-hot furnace and from your hands, O king, may he save us. But even if he will not, know, O king, that we will not serve your God or worship the golden statue that you had set up." Now King Nebuchadnezzar's face became livid with utter rage against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times more than usual, and had some of the strongest men in his army bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the white-hot furnace. Nebuchadnezzar rose in haste and asked his nobles, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" "Assuredly, O king," they answered. But he replied, "I see 4 men, unfettered and unhurt, walking in the fire, and the fourth looks like a son of God." Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel to deliver the servants who trusted in him. They disobeyed the royal command and yielded their bodies rather than serve or worship any god except their own God." The word of the Lord. I want to take just a couple of minutes to reflect on the first reading from the Old Testament today. We have the story of Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego. I think that there are at least 3 ways to think about these 3 people, these 3 men. The first would be as radicals. Radicals in the model of St. Oscar Romero. They were pushing back against the sort of ruling elite of the time. King Nebuchadnezzar had conquered Israel and enslaved the Jewish people now living in Babylon. I have to admit that when I think about my own gifts, being a radical is not one of them. I tend to be a rule follower, and whenever I'm encouraged to speak out as a radical or to act out as a radical, I get very uncomfortable doing it. But Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, they were radicals, and they paid the price because of it. But there's a second way to look at them as well and to think about their ministry, if you want to call it that. And that would be in the role of martyr. They certainly were martyrs. St. Maximilian Kolbe is another example of a saint who was a martyr, the one who took the place of a condemned Jew in Auschwitz, in the Nazi concentration camp. Took the place of a man who had children and a family, and St. Maximilian Kolbe put his hand up and said, "Take me instead." He was a martyr. You know, I've often asked myself if I have what it takes to give up my life for my faith. Please don't ask me what I've concluded after asking that question. I'm not sure that I'm really cut out to be martyr material. But you know, I'm guessing that most people that turned out to be martyrs didn't think they were martyr material either. So who knows? I hope it doesn't come to that. But we can think of Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego as martyrs for their faith. But the way I like to think about them might not strike you as the first or most likely option. I think they were evangelists. I think they were disciple makers, a little bit like St. John the Baptist. Somebody who simply tells the truth in love about Jesus. Making passionate disciples, which is kind of the key purpose of our parish really, doesn't necessarily require us to take to the streets against the reigning powers and principalities. It doesn't necessarily require us to become martyrs, but we do need to be witnesses in our own ways with the gifts we've been given. And Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, they certainly were radicals, and they, of course, were martyrs, but perhaps most importantly, they were evangelists. They turned a hardened, power-hungry, cocky, pagan, idol-worshipping king, King Nebuchadnezzar, into someone who openly acknowledged the God of creation. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, King Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed. Pretty impressive. What about you? What gifts do you have that you can use to help others see the power of God's love in your life? How can you be active in the work of making passionate disciples of Jesus?